goes back much farther than you think. Here's a quick history lesson about where this tradition started and why it is a sign of respect to remove your hat during the national anthem and when you are indoors. First, this tradition started with medieval knights. During the medieval period, knights were usually heavily armored for fighting, with just about every inch of them covered with protective metal. This included their faces, which were covered by a helmet and a visor. When these knights would see women or nobility, they would lift their visor as a sign of respect, and this tradition carried on. In American history, removing one's hat became a gesture of respect. Men took off their hats in churches, schools, and when they entered someone's home, and always in the presence of a lady. Removing one's hat during the national anthem was actually added to the U.S. Code, and although there isn't a penalty for not following this expectation, it is generally seen as a sign of disrespect. Cancer patients are exempt from these rules. They may keep their hats or caps on at all times if they wish. Also, members of the armed forces who are in full uniform do not remove their hats, but instead salute. Hats aren't the essential article of clothing they once were, but are still worn by many Americans today. Our national anthem, the U.S. flag, and the Pledge of Allegiance all have certain protocols that we as citizens need to follow and pass along to our children. By showing shared respect, we make our past one with the present, and the present a foundation for the future. I'm grateful to be an American. I'm also proud that our nation's history is part of my own. It is an honor that the brave men and women who are currently serving or have served in the armed forces are among my ancestors, my friends, my relatives, my neighbors, and my co-citizens. And I'm proud to follow the manners that have been established for how to best honor the symbols of our great country.
Thank you, Anne. We will now have a special presentation of the American Creed from one of our local Veterans Day.
I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy in a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
The American's Creed, written by William Tyler Page, is an important statement that introduces many themes that Americans hold dear. America is known for its freedom, liberty, and justice that not only inspires people to come to the United States, but also inspires people already living here. Although these are things Americans may take for granted, they represent what our founding fathers worked so hard to preserve. The American Creed can be seen almost every day in American life through symbols like the flag and rituals like the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem. These symbols remind people how strong people's love for America is, but also how much more we must work to make sure our nation's ideals protect every American citizen. We will now have a musical selection from our elementary students. Please rise when you hear your branch to be recognized by your students. have a reading of the poem in Flanders Field from two of our seniors, Morgan Brody and Virginia Bill.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who died, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
These are the lines of the poem in Flanders Field. This poem by John McCrae is a well-known and much revered poem concerning the many lives lost in Flanders, Belgium during World War I. It references the red poppies that grew over the graves of the fallen. The narrator states that in Flanders Field the poppies are blowing in rows between the rows of crosses marking the graves of fallen soldiers. The reader gets an idea that this field is vast and covered with crosses marking graves, instantly placed as a remembrance for the fallen men. The poem concludes by stating that unless their war is fought on by others, they will never rest, even if they do lie amongst the poppies. Since the poem's release, poppies have become a symbol associated with Veterans Day and Memorial Day. When we see the poppy flower, let us think of our veterans.
Edgemont has an impressive legacy of military service. Each year, we take time during our Veterans Day program to recognize those who have passed on and reflect on their service and dedication to our nation and community. Please take time to visualize what each name represents when being read. Each name represents countless hours dedicated to our freedom and safety, and though we may never know the story of each name read, we know they gave us the priceless gift, the gift of freedom. The students of Edgemont are eternally grateful for their sacrifices and contributions.
Larry Alexander, Connie L. Allen, Edwin Hans Anderson, Lester L. Anderson, Orrin R. Armstrong, Raymond Ernest A. Bert W. Bailey, Robert B. Bailey, Clayton Ball, Edward Ball, Richard Ball, Robert Ball, Roy O. Ball, Anthony George Jr. Bannerman, Anthony George Sr. Bannerman, John Barden, Nelson N. Barker, Stanley Wadsworth Burnett, Willard Francis Beard, Allenson Thomas B., Robert James Benda, E. E. Bennett, Alfred Benton, Fred A. Benton, Raymond Bettenhausen, Benjamin H. Blackney, Leroy Baus, Bowell, Joseph Baylor Boyer, Luis Jacob Brennenholz, James Harvey Brown, Richard Lewis Bruhl, Glenn D. Beautiful, Frank A. Berker, James R. Bryan, Curtis Cadwell, Edward P. Campbell, Lauren James Taylor, William Edward Taylor, Merlin Floyd Childers, Vincent L. Childers, Everett E. Ford, Albert Coates, James Hardy Cole, Arthur Leonard Colgan, Colette R. Cooksey, Norris J. Darrah, Charles Dam, L. E. Davis, Frank Denver, Richard D. Dibble, Dryden Darrah.
Robert B. Durson, William Dale Durson, Jacob Everly, Maurice W. Egan, Helena White Eves, John E. Eves, Morris Leslie Faulkner, W. G. Farr, Kenneth R. Foreman, L. A. Wayne Foreman, Wilbur Henry Foreman, Peter J. Franzen, Polito Gallegos, Roy L. Gibson, Johnny C. Glasby, Philip Clarence F. Fruity, Samuel Carl Gunderson, Carl Vincent Goll, Clement F. Haig, Frederick Peck, Paul Herman Heck, Adalbert Howard Hedlund, Darrell Eugene Heldman,
Orton Ray Heldman, Thelma R. Henderson, John H. Hefner, Russell D. Hefner, Albert Gerald Hessler, Elmer W. Hiley, Lloyd D. Hiley, John T. Hogg, Henry Hollenbeck, Raymond Hudson, Lee Clinton Huston, George Igso, Leon E. Jefferson, John Johnson, Richard D. Johns, Arthur S. Johnson, Emma Johnson, Lester L. Jones, William C. Carradine, William G. Carradine, Eugene Kendrick, John Palmy Kendrick, Claire Hilton Kerr, Fisher King, Ira Kirkpatrick, Henry E. Coulterman, Kelly R. Combs, Frederick A. Kramer, Roger Lavasser, Keith Layton, Joe G. Lettergar, Troy Lewis.
Garnet Lindbergh, Oliver L. Lindbergh, Marion Logan, Max M. Manisil, Thomas Markey, Woodrow Markey, Wilfred Henry Martinson, Rye Ormond Martinson, James B. Massey, Lloyd A. McLaney, Dale C. McBride, John McDermott, Thomas E. McGill, Charles D. McWilliams, David William Miller, Mason M. Miller, Richard Thomas Miller, Frank B. Moore, Clinton Crawford Morehouse, Jimmy E. Morris, Henry Morris, Bill Morrison, Otto Mueller, John F. Fred Muntz, Archie Robert Niquette, Darrell Gray Newland, Dora Ermel Newland, Harold Francis Nightingale, Jack O'Connor, William G. Ormsby, Ernest A. Paulson, Leo Laverne Paulson, Francis Peterson, Artemis C. Petty Jr., Leslie Poole, Harley J. Porter, Harry R. Porter, Jeanette Porter, Melvin Porter, Harry Prince, Charles Putnam, Donald Putnam, Lloyd Putnam, Lawrence Raby, Arthur W. Runge, James Lewis Ritter, Charles H. Roller, Merle Roslewis, Maurice E. Sally, Francis Seelock, George Jr. Slogic, Alfred Schul, Alfred L. Shutt, Roy Shutt.
Gaylord Scott, Joseph Franklin Sheeman, Thomas Sheehan, Wade Sheldon, John Shelley, James Sherlin, Nicholas Shorter, Orrin Shuck, Charles A. Simons, Charles Albert Simons, Francis Smisser, Henry Snyder, William Lee Spencer, Charles A. Standen, Edward J. Standen, Roy E. Standen, Louis H. Stevens, Hermit Elwood Stokes, Harry Strickland, Harold Isaac Tanner, Darrell E. Terry, William E. Terry, David Thompson, James Lawrence Tracy, William C. Trumpeter, John Trotter, Robert Tubbs, Dorothy Trupper, Reuben Valdez, Vincent F. Valdez, Raymond Leon Van Winkle, William Van Winkle, Clifford Wade, Henry Weldon, George F. Walters, Raymond Albert Ward, Melvin E. Welch, Harrison Whaley, David White, John Emerson Whitehouse, Thomas Wilkerson, James A. Zimiga, James Wesley Zimiga. Ladies and gentlemen, today is Veterans Day, a day to salute those who gave themselves to serve our country. At this time, we ask that all veterans who have served in the United States military to please rise so that you may be recognized with a round of applause of appreciation for those who have helped to defend. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please join our veterans and rise for a moment of silence to honor the men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. Today we salute those who have lost their lives from the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard with a moment of silence. Thank you. You may now be seated.
Now, I am proud to welcome the middle school choir to sing Soldiers We Thank You.